Hello everybody and welcome back to Higher Learning Test Prep's online video tutorial series. Today we're going to be talking about how to ace the new ACT essay. This is a step-by-step guide we've put together. We had so many questions about this. In fact, a colleague recently asked us about the new ACT, and the more and more we thought about it, the more we realized that we needed a comprehensive guide. So here we go. Here's a look at the old essay. So you can pause the video and read the question. In essence, the essay is simply asking you to take a point on, or take a position on whether or not school should have dress codes. So a simple, persuasive essay is what you're asked to do. Here's the new one, which you can pause and read over. In essence, we'll look down at the essay task. It says write a unified, coherent essay in which you evaluate multiple perspectives on the increasing presence of intelligent machines. In your essay, be sure to analyze and evaluate the perspectives given, state and develop your own perspective on the issue, and explain the relationship between your perspective and those given. Now at the bottom it says your perspective may be in full agreement with any of the others, partial agreement, or wholly different. Whatever the case, support your ideas with logical reasoning and detailed persuasive examples. The best bet is to pick one of these three that you're going to most likely agree with, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, here's the other page that's now provided, which is a little bit of a well-organized outlining page. Essentially, it tells you what the essay is really looking for. It says, you may wish to consider the following as you think critically about the task. Well, you should definitely consider the following: the strengths and weaknesses of the three positions given, or three perspectives, and your own knowledge, experience, and values and how they relate or support your perspective. Okay, so here's also a list of the design modifications, how things have changed. I'd like you to know that we're talking about contemporary issues instead of school-themed issues. The other obvious change was that they're giving you three diverse perspectives. Then they're asking you to put yourself somewhere in relation to those perspectives. They're also giving you a little bit more time and a little bit more structure for pre-writing like we just saw. Okay, so the new ACT essay assignment is more complex, no denying it, but your task is actually simpler. Don't believe anybody who tells you your task is actually harder. This is a much easier essay, and here's why. First of all, there's three viewpoints that are already given. There's no need to build your ideas from scratch. You have a built-in counter-argument and reasoning. And in a sense, it's like getting delivery instead of making pizza at home, which everybody knows is easier, yay for pizza. Okay, let's get a little further into this. So the old ACT writing prompt was a matter of choosing a viewpoint and persuasively and creatively defending that viewpoint. That meant that students had to come up with great examples and reasoning and then go through the process of critically analyzing the counter arguments to their examples and reasoning. All of this for an essay about something you probably don't care too much about. That is, it's really hard to write an impassioned defense or support or critique of dress codes. However, it's probably a lot easier to write about intelligent machines than what you really think. Moreover, we don't have to come up with our own ideas, of course. That's important. So the new ACT writing prompt gives us an undeniably more interesting subject and three ready-made opinions. Instead of making up your own ideas and hoping they're interesting enough, all you've got to do is choose pepperoni, margarita, Hawaiian, maybe pepperoni Hawaiian if you're crazy. We're saying here at Higher Learning Test Prep, don't let the world stop you from reaching for the stars. If you want to make up your own pizza, go ahead and do it. But in this metaphor, maybe stick with delivery, stick with the pre-choosed options, or at least roughly one of the chosen options that they've given you already. So no matter what your opinion is on the issue, you're most likely to find one of the three that you roughly agree with and one of the three that you mostly disagree with. So without having to call out to the heavens for creative inspiration, you've probably got a pretty good idea about what you'd like to say and what you'd like to draw attention to. Sure, you've got to come up with supportive reasoning, but the argument pretty much frames itself. You don't have to think creatively. That's the big change here. And your examples only have to support the reasoning that is already given, as opposed to frame entire arguments by yourself. So paraphrase. I'm just going to paraphrase each of the three arguments, just roughly summarize each position. Here's perspective one. What we lose with the replacement of people by machines is some part of our own humanity. Even our mundane daily encounters no longer require from us basic courtesy, respect, and tolerance for other people. So here's our paraphrase. Technology has removed the necessity for basic human respect among members of a society, resulting in a less humane world. In other words, they think this is bad. Next one. Machines are good at low-skill, repetitive jobs and at high-speed, extremely precise jobs. In both cases, they work better than humans. This efficiency leads to a more prosperous and progressive world for everyone. In other words, technology has increased efficiency, which leads to a better world for everyone, which is in this case good, whereas the last one was bad. Perspective 3, intelligent machines challenge our long-standing ideas about what humans are or can be. This is good because it pushes both humans and machines towards new, unimagined possibilities. So technology is stretching the limits of humanity and encouraging us to grow as a species and society, which this person is painting as something that's very good. So there's our 3 paraphrases of the perspectives. Now we're going to take a position. This is probably something that happens naturally. Don't overthink it. The ACT hasn't inserted 1 right answer and 2 wrong answers in order to trick students. They've listed 3 compelling opinions, all of which are considered equally valid by the test makers. I'm going with perspective 2. I think all are reasonable or plausible, but 2 is something that I absolutely agree with. So let's write a thesis. This is definitely the most important part of your essay. The thesis will make or break your essay, but it isn't difficult. All we have to remember is the ACT loves simplicity. The more complicated you're writing, the worse your score will be. Here's mine. While many of the eventual effects of an increasingly technological world are unknown, it must be granted that technology has enabled an increase in efficiency and an improvement to human living standards. Simply put, I've said, I don't know for sure whether technology is ultimately very good or very bad, but I do know that running water and internet access is better than no running water and no internet access. So my thesis is really simple. Now we're going to stock up on examples. We're going to use our paraphrase perspectives from part 1 and build on them. We'll write 1 or 2 sentences supporting each perspective and 1 or 2 sentences arguing against each perspective. You might be saying, like, why would we write something against the one that we're supporting, and why would we write supportive sentences for the ones that we're against? You'll see why in a second. Perspective 1, which we've listed as technology has removed the necessity for basic human respect among members of a society, resulting in a less humane world. So here's the agreement statement. My students think phone calls are awkward and have a hard time communicating verbally because they've been raised to text each other. So that's my agreement. My disagreement is that my students are some of the most compassionate and sensitive people I've ever met. If technology was dehumanizing them, I'd expect more hate mail. People seem in some ways to be more polite and sensitive than ever. So here we have perspective 1. Now let's look at perspective 2. So in perspective 2, the one we agree with is technology has increased efficiency, which leads to a better world for everyone. We agree, thanks to Skype, I don't have to drive to lessons anymore. No gas, no traffic, no wasted time. In a disagreeing statement, people lose their jobs to machines as companies become more efficient. So we can see something that I agree with about my chosen perspective that I'm going to support, and something that people might say against my perspective that I've chosen to support. We'll see how that becomes useful in a little bit. Perspective 3. Technology is stretching the limits of humanity and encouraging us to grow as a species and a society. We agree with that by saying, thanks to technology, I work with people from all over the globe, which challenges me to think about things from different viewpoints and to grow. I can disagree with that point by saying sometimes people are really mean on the internet, so is this really making us better people? So we've seen positives and negatives from each perspective. Now let's see how we're going to use them. Okay, part 5, prepare for the critics. So now that we have some idea of the good and bad for each point, let's figure out how to counter our critics who disagree with us. My negative for perspective 2, remember, is that as technology grows, people lose jobs. If I'm arguing that perspective 2 is the best one, I'd better know how to counteract that argument. So here goes. While some might point to dwindling jobs in industrial markets as a sign of the negative effects of technology on the economy, we must take into account a booming technology sector which offsets many of the lost industrial jobs. Furthermore, each machine that replaces a human being actually frees that human being to do something more useful for society. So that's how I'm going to counteract the people who have come up with the negative that I came up with for my perspective too. And here's one extra example for good luck. Just one more reason why we're right. Technology has increased the efficiency of communication, making it possible to get emergency medical care for people that otherwise might not survive. Hard to argue with that one. Okay, so we've done enough planning now. We have positive and negative statements all over the place for each thing. Okay, so congratulations, you are now ready to write your essay. You've got everything you need. Let's go over a rubric for your overall essay and for each paragraph. If you use it, you'll be certain to cover everything the graders are looking for. And we'll talk about the graders in just a minute. So for your essay rubric, let's see. Paragraph 1, thesis, general reasoning, a specific example. The however, there are other viewpoints. Nevertheless, I'm right. Paragraph 2, opposing viewpoint 1, why they've got a point, what they haven't considered, and why you're right, followed by a transition to paragraph 3, opposing viewpoint 2, why they've got a point, what they haven't considered, why I'm right, transition again, paragraph 4, my viewpoint, why some people think I'm wrong, why I'm ultimately right, paragraph 5, I love pepperoni pizza, I'm right, why opposing view 1 is wrong, why opposing view 2 is wrong, a conclusion, and an outro. Usually try to do something a little bit funny or poetic or charming or something near the end. The rest of the essay should be really, really focused on organization, development of ideas, and the very end you can add a little bit of spice if you like. But essentially what you see in each of these paragraphs is going from a statement, the opposing viewpoint or the thesis in each statement or in each paragraph, followed by a general reasoning, more specific example. You give people the benefit of the doubt by saying why they have a point, and then considering what they haven't considered that proves why you're right. The transitions, which we can't really get into in much depth here because of time restrictions, this is the part where you really have to be good with language, where you're making sure that you're eloquently moving from one thing to the other the way you would if you were in a conversation with somebody. Just a good segue between each point. Okay, so how the ACT grades your essay. Ideas and analysis. Did you analyze and evaluate the 3 perspectives? Development and support. Did you state your own opinion and support your perspective with good reasoning? Did you explain the relationship between your perspectives and the given perspectives? Is your essay organized? And did you use persuasive language, good transitions, and good word variation? Now that last piece is something that we haven't been able to really cover in this lesson. Essentially, just make sure you're using good diction, that you're transitioning naturally from one idea to the next, that you're being persuasive and really trying to drive your point home. It's nice that we can see now the individual ways and aspects of your score that you're getting, because it can allow us to get a little bit better at individual pieces. But as you can see from our previous outlining, we have done all of these things. We've evaluated the perspectives, put them in our own words. We've developed our own perspective in relation to the other ones. We've explained the relationship and given support. We've had a well-organized essay, at least our outline has been well-organized, and we can only hope that you'll use good language. Okay, so those scores of 2 through 12 are such that you'll get 2 scores of 1 to 6 from a grader, 6 being the highest score you can get. The 2 scores will be added up to give you your individual score. And you can notice that, of course, these 4 areas with a maximum score of 12 don't add up to a 36, which is a little confusing. It's simply they just add up all those scores, and then they use a score scale to get you to your actual score of 1 to 36. The 1 to 36 is just so it's in relation to your other scores, your reading, your math, your writing, your English, your science. So the ELA score at the bottom is just an average of your English, which is the grammar section, your reading, critical reading, and the writing, which is the essay. Okay, here is the table for the scores of 6, 5, and 4, 6 being the highest score you can get, 5 and 4 being pretty good scores. We didn't include the other ones because we figured you're most interested in seeing what it takes to get a good to great score in each of the 4 categories: ideas and analysis, development and support, organization, and language use. So if you have any more questions, I urge you to get in touch with us: email, Facebook, Twitter, really any way you can on the internet, we're there. Get in touch and we'll give you the best SAT and ACT advice you can imagine. If you want just a quick little bit of advice, we'll be happy to make a quick video for you to show you how to do any individual problem on the SAT or ACT. If you need more advanced personalized help, of course, we're happy to do that as well. We provide the best Skype tutoring you can get. So get in touch and we hope to hear from you. Take care, everybody.